Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the City Council study session. First agenda item of the evening is Broadway improvement, our design elements. Public Works engineer Paul Weller is present to give an update on the Broadway improvements. Evening, welcome.
Do we have the projector set up?
Sorry, I moved it down just a touch.
That's why I don't set it up.
So just move it over. Thank you, Sam. Okay,
Good
go ahead,
evening.
John.
I'm here to give you an update on the various improvements that we have going on the 3400 block on South Broadway. Wanted to show this slide to you again tonight. This was made in our previous presentation. We have previously, or you have previously found $533,000 for us to start the Phase 1 improvements, which we're working in a logical order, starting with the electrical infrastructure, pedestrian lightings, banner, street furniture, wayfinding signs, and public art. We're phasing it this way so that we can create an immediate impact to the 3400 block and then follow in a logical order to complete the streetscape. First thing we're going to do is the mid-block crossing. We're going to go ahead and start the construction of that with the original design, and we're going to add the rectangular rapid flashing beacons in order to make that crossing as safe as possible. The model traffic code requires signage approximately 30 feet from the edge of the crosswalk. That bulb out now goes about 20 feet, so there would be an extension of 10 feet. This extension will be done with signage and pavement markings, and it will not reduce the available parking based on a 24-foot standard parking stall. We'd also like to construct the raised median per ETAC recommendations. It would give the pedestrian that's in the middle of the crosswalk a much safer feeling, knowing that he's protected by a little bit of concrete. We also found a methyl methacrylate substance that's used here. You can see it's used in Denver, or a red carpet as a crosswalk. We think this brings added interest to the area, and it meets the model traffic code for contrast and reflectivity. The asphalt is ground down on this, and this material is applied by a roller. Bring you up to date on our public involvement campaign. We're preparing community updates via web postings, and we've compiled a list of email addresses for businesses. We'll be keeping them up to date on construction schedules, letting them see the choices that have been made, getting their involvement, and actually making some of the choices. We presented the budget and the streetscape to the first community-based goals workshop. We had citizen design teams take a budget of $1 million, and then they prioritized the items that they would like to see. They were pretty much on board with what we were doing. They had a few changes to the priorities. There were several of them that would like to keep the existing furniture in the long run and not go out and purchase new furniture. And there were also a couple of groups that had prioritized some of the intersection paving. So the other thing we're going to get started with is the pedestrian lighting. We currently have a design engineer coming up with a new design on the system. We're going to be replacing the pedestrian lighting in the 3400 block shown with the yellow dots. We'll be rewiring the lights, the existing globe lights in the 3300 block shown in the green dots. The red stars are locations that we anticipate boring pits for when they bore the new conduit to run the new wiring. These are not final. They're simply our best guess as to where things will be put to have the most efficient use of the area and create the least amount of disruption to the businesses. Our lighting designer gave us several styles to look at, and I wanted to look at other communities to see what they were doing. So we looked at several communities. On the left, there's our current light in Inglewood. Parker also uses it. The middle is the light that the Santa Fe Art District uses. City of Golden, City of Littleton, and City of Arvada all have similar installations. And then on South Broadway and Antique Row, they have something that's a little different. The other light style that was in the consultant's package was this one from Hess America. It's pretty contemporary. It's downcast lighting. It features a modular design to where we can put lights at different locations. They can be different colors. They can bring different emphasis. So you can see here kind of the different light paths that can be projected from them. Most of them downcast so they don't disrupt they don't disrupt residents that live above some of these buildings, and they don't shine in drivers' eyes. Some of the special effects can highlight features on the sidewalk or adjacent sculptures. The Intella Street light was another one that was brought to us for consideration. As you can see, most of them are a traditional style. They do have a few that are a little more contemporary. These were interesting because they are wirelessly controlled for several different types of features, changing lights, sound, and there's even an emergency push button that's available. And then this is an example of a contemporary design, the pendant and post top. They're rather minimalist, but they do the job. When these lights go in and the electrical outlets are added to the existing tree locations, we're expecting this area of disturbance at each location. Really need to try to minimize this, keeping 5 foot open in front of the building so that pedestrians still can get in and out of the stores. Of course, the parking lanes will need to be restricted when they're working in these areas, and they may even need to take down 2 or 3 areas at one time for efficiency. But the quicker they're out of there, the quicker we get the street back. Xcel Energy has now approved our use of these street poles as light banner installations, so they will not require a change out of those poles, so we're going to save a little money there. We can start immediately with banner selection. This is what banners will look like when they're installed. We've also looked at a couple different styles based on some comments that we received on the initial style. These are a green. These are more of a red or orange. And these can be changed seasonally or for any special events. The street furniture locations is another element of the streetscape that we're looking at. Different symbols up there represent different pieces of furniture. There are lights, there are bike racks, there are benches, flower pots, to name a few. We are proposing that we repowder coat the existing benches and trash containers. They're a little aged, and we can return them to the green color or a bronze color. Wayfinding signs was part of the plan. This was our original kind of design. It's a little out of scale, but it does kind of show you different things that we can put on the signs. The businesses along there may be able to add information for their business on the sign. I would suggest we do a fee based for that. And I believe the location on these is subject to, we can move them around a little bit. This is shown at the Paseo, but they could be at different locations. Just determines on where they'll make the biggest impact. We had a great meeting last Friday with the Cultural Arts Commission. We talked about different types of art that could go in the streetscape. We talked about freestanding sculpture work. We also talked about murals. There is a new mural on the side of the Zomo restaurant there in the West Paseo, and they're currently looking for other locations and working with other business owners. And we also talked about some specialty sidewalk paving or painting. There's a new installation downtown Denver that has a nice mural on it. Anything done at this time would have to be temporary in nature, but that might add to the artwork itself. Our improvement schedule, as I said, the first thing that will have an immediate impact will be the installation of the banners. So once we decide on what the banners want to look like, we can get them ordered, designed, and installed. We're also nearing the end of our lighting infrastructure. We should have a bid package ready to go by mid-July. Then that will be followed by a 30-day bid period, and then probably another 30-day for contract negotiation. If they accept most of the terms, or if they accept the terms of our standard contracts, that item can be shortened, and then we'll go to construction with that just as quickly as we can after that. Keeping in mind that we do want to make sure that the holiday lighting is not affected by this work. The mid-block construction, we're currently in a change order phase where we've given the contractor the plans and he's working up a change order. This is our concrete utility contractor, so they're working with their bid prices to get this work done. We believe that work can start as soon as that contract is finalized and presented for you for approval. And then finally, the street furniture, that's along with the banner lighting, that's pretty flexible, although we do need to wait until our right-of-way crews are free from some of their summer activities so that they can go out and pull up some of the benches and take them down and have them powder-coated. So that's the extent of my presentation. I'd like to know if you have any questions.
Questions or comments from council? Councilmember Barentine.
The inventory for the trash receptacles, the benches, was that? Oh, sorry. I apologize, Doug. No. Sorry about that. The inventory that you did for the trash receptacles, the benches, what area did that cover? Was it all three?
That was only the 3400 block.
There are 7 trash receptacles on that. Well, it seems a lot. And then I was kind of the meeting on this that I went to over at the alternative high school that they had. There wasn't really anybody that liked the wayfinding signs, and I guess the concern came up that between the banners and the wayfinding signs, the benches and the receptacles and artwork, that were making this so cluttered that some of the businesses are concerned, people are even going to be able to see their sign through all of the clutter there and the safety of that crosswalk when there's so much visually going on in just that short space of...
That's a very good point, and I think that's something that we can take to the businesses and see how they feel about that, to see if they would welcome the opportunity to be listed on a sign or if it's just too much. I think that would be a great thing for some public input.
Right. I talked to a couple, and I think it came up in a conversation I was having with some of the people at the Urban Land Institute when we were there on Thursday, and asked, because I had seen them in some pictures. I don't know whether it was Arvada or Westminster. I don't know, in one of the projects that they did, or it might have been Lakewood, and then also Littleton did that, and they haven't been, because it's such a condensed small area that it just, that it seems so unnecessary.
I think the impact and the costs are open to discussion. That's the
so that's still, we're still discussing that
yes.
piece. I see it wasn't on your phase one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's far enough down the timeline to where we can discuss and we can come up with alternate designs that maybe don't take up, aren't so visually intrusive.
Right, and then the other discussion that came up last time about the lighting was how much light we're putting, ruining the dark sky thing, and that be considered as we're picking the lighting, not just about the safety, but about making sure that we protect some of that.
Yes, certainly the Hess lighting that I featured is downcast. You can have an uplight, but I think that would have to consider what we're actually trying to light. But most of those lights are downcast.
All right. And thank you for the meeting that you had over there. That was, I thought it was productive. There were only, I think, 11 or 12 citizens there, but I thought it was pretty productive. A lot of good suggestions. Even in that kind of controlled setting, but for them to kind of prioritize at least the things amenities they wanted to see and things that they didn't think were worth the cost on it. It was enlightening. Thanks.
Russell?
On the parking spaces, I know that you're going ahead with that, so it's not going to cut into the parking spaces as much as you thought it was originally?
We went and measured the existing street, and then the standard parking stall is 24 feet. That gives you enough room to maneuver in, maneuver out. That's a standard measurement. And, we were coming up with like a fraction of a space that we're taking.
Okay. And as far as the color, I love the bronze color, but some residents came up to me, and this is a good point. We can't do everything at once, and so it may be good just to leave it the same color so it ties in.
And that would certainly be an approach. And in fact, one of the other, I think I mentioned the other thing that came out of the community goals meeting was to leave the furniture more or less as it is and not replace it. There could be there's a good cost there.
Right. Thank you.
Rolson?
Thank you for these. I have a couple questions about time and form of communication that you've had since that last meeting that we had down at the Bob with everyone, and you took emails and everything, but what is the process of which you're keeping
the process will be sending out notification on the schedule of construction. Back when our last meeting, there was still a lot of things in motion. Those are starting to come into clarity, into focus, so now we can start putting dates on things. We don't want to tell people that we're going to be there and we're not, so we're starting to tie down some of those dates. So I anticipate sending out a newsletter in the next week or 2 weeks to give the businesses down there a schedule and a chance to weigh in on some of our design effort.
So other than the meeting last week, have there been is there an ongoing group of businesses that are meeting and giving you ongoing input? No.
No.
See a no.
No.
Okay. That's all I'm really concerned about. I mean, we have to live with some of this stuff, but they have to live with it even more.
Yeah.
So who will decide on the aesthetic decision making that has to happen? These house lights look really cool because they are so good at downlight, but there may be some features with that could be also really distracting. And
Well, I think opening up to the community to get their input will certainly help drive us. I did kind of lean on the Cultural Arts Committee. Maybe they can kind of help us from the taste level.
so you don't know yet how those decisions are going to be made?
Not fully.
Okay.
Well, we will go through, we will vet things, and we also base, on costs, availability, and general aesthetics and how they're received.
So I'm just wondering, and I'm just sort of thinking out loud, but is there a way to come up with a business group that is, and part of the cultural arts, maybe an ad hoc group that could be more continuously here? Like, do they even know that now the parking is not as much of a problem? Because they're still talking about it as if it is.
Well, honestly, we haven't communicated with them since that last meeting.
Since that meeting, there's been nothing.
But we did have a couple in our office individually, and it seemed to me, and in fact they stated that they would prefer not to have those meetings. It takes away from their time, and this is why we were going to communicate with them electronically and by mail. We're happy to meet with them as a group if they wanted to, but being respectful of their time, I think they prefer
I totally
not.
get that, but I wouldn't take the word of two people for that down there. I just would not. I just think they might be representing and they might not be representing the rest of the people up and down. So, but I totally get that their businesses are at stake every time they go to a meeting that we put on. But I would really love to see us have it when maybe it is just a constant email feedback loop, but they have to have more information all the time than less. And having not had anything since the last meeting, I think is unfortunate.
Yeah.
I would overload them with some communication until they tell you too much.
It's time that we get back in front of them, definitely. Okay. And I think by sending them newsletters, emailing them information, maybe gives them an opportunity to respond with outside the big group, so they don't feel pressured in what they say. So hopefully we'll get more feedback.
Yes, I think that's true too. I think that is true because someone says something and someone else doesn't want to say anything against it because they have to keep their friendships together, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's a good way to do it. So the aesthetic decisions will be made by some ad hoc group that you'll get information from, and then you'll make the final decision. You're not asking us to make this, right?
Ultimately, it's you.
Ultimately, you want us to weigh in.
We made recommendations, and we want to run those recommendations by the community out there, and if they support them, we'll just say...
I couldn't tell from the agenda tonight whether whether this was just informational or you wanted some perspective tonight on any of these.
Well, it's informational, but we're happy to hear your comments.
Any downlighting you can do, that's the best. But most of these, most of
that
these
Hess fixture looks like, that's why we recommend it. We think it's very versatile, and we like the way it downlights.
And I think that the other banners that have the cherry Lynn with the orange in the background looked like it was on fire. So just watch out with the colors there.
One comment we got about the banners before at that other meeting was to incorporate some green, which our graphic artist has, and we propose just going forward with those. Again, they're not that expensive, and we can change them out seasonally or if our tastes change.
I'd be glad to send emails on other things, but I'm sure we'll all have different views. An aesthetic decision is always difficult by committee.
Councilmember Martinez.
I just have a question. I know you guys had a great meeting with Cultural Arts Commission, and I wonder how involved ETAC has been involved with this. I know they had made a recommendation about the raised median. Has there been other input that they've put in? I just wonder if maybe it might be a good idea with the next meeting, if we involve Cultural Arts, to have them there as well.
I think that's a great idea to get the two of them together. obviously E-Tech hasn't been involved in any kind of art talk, but they were heavily involved in recommendations for that mid-block. And, they recommend the rapid flashing beacons, which we want to do, and they recommend that raised median to make people feel safer in the middle. There was a few others that, we could talk about later, like putting buckets of flags on each side. That there was a couple of other ones too, but they have been involved. And I think, though, the main ones for them from the safety were the beacons and the raised median, which we have incorporated into our plan.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Yates.
I like the Hess lighting for the being directional on that. I would be interested in seeing more information on it other than just the 2 slides. But the general concept I think is good. The ability to splash some lights, different colored lights with it, I think would help make that area somewhat unique. I would be concerned with having too much down there. The pillar showing the businesses and stuff like that might be a little bit too much. Especially if we're doing banners and lights and all sorts of stuff. And a lot of those businesses already have some really nice signs to begin with. And I think that's probably more advantageous for their signs to be seen than a wayfinding sign, because it's only a block. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing forward a great project. I think businesses and residents are really excited to see this sort of come forward. I guess we're kind of into some design element stuff, and as you guys pointed out, that design element really is so important. I do think this survey is a good idea to get some feedback, but ultimately I do agree that council ultimately has got to make this call. Even amongst us, I think some of us are going to have to make some concessions on, trying to keep the design aesthetic somewhat congruent and, being conscious of, what else is there. I did have a few questions and some comments, I guess. When you say raised median, I guess I'm a little unclear about what that means. Does that mean like when you're in the middle of the mid-block that you'll be elevated from the street level?
No, that's just the median that is in front of the actual crosswalk. It will look, you have the crosswalk that passes through the median. On the south side, the median is already raised. There's a slope up, and then there's a short little wall that runs around a planting area. This raised median would be to the north of the actual crosswalk and would just include the angled portion of the concrete and then flat concrete on top of that, kind of creating a barrier between the traffic and the pedestrians in the middle.
Or near the mid-block?
In the mid-block, in the middle of the island.
So in the middle of the island, what will be different? I apologize. Did you guys understand? I apologize. I don't think I totally comprehended.
Try. Right now, the medians out there have it's maybe 8 or 10 inch high wall that there's some plantings in. All this would do is on the north side construct an 8 or 10 inch high planter. We won't plant in it because we don't want to irrigate such a small area. That's all it is. It's just a little concrete protection. If a car were to get up on the median, it's more likely to stop it.
I see. Thank you. I appreciate some design options, that we're looking at for the crossing itself, for the crosswalk itself. I appreciate this red carpet idea. Were there other things that you looked at as far as design possibilities that might meet some of those same guidelines besides the red carpet?
With the model traffic code, we're a little limited to what we can do in that area. You have 2 things. You need to have the contrast to the black pavement, and then you need to have a reflectivity. So this has glass beads in it that reflect back the light.
I just don't know that the red really makes a ton of sense. A green carpet would make more sense to me on our downtown, but, I was thinking, something, perhaps more vibrant, or I've seen some that have different elements inside of it, different swirls or different colors and things, and that's what I was kind of looking more for. But I hope maybe we can look at some other options and present those perhaps as part of this design aesthetic survey. But do you think a green carpet makes sense or works as well as a red carpet, or is it something
check.
about the red?
We can check. I'm a little hesitant to recommend putting anything on the inside. The more elements that are inside, maybe the more distracting it is. We want to make sure that people understand it's a crosswalk and it's for crossing. We don't want people stopping on the side of the road to admire it, causing cars to stop.
You wish.
Unnecessarily. So there are some fairly stringent guidelines on the model traffic code that would restrict what we could recommend.
Okay, awesome. But perhaps we could see some other recommendations coming forward. These bore pits that you'll have to, kind of get into for the electrical stuff. I saw a couple of the spots where, like, on the 3300 block might actually impact some of those businesses. Do you think, or no?
It's very possible. And again, those are just suggested areas. If I was to go out and bore it, those might be places where I would put a machine in a bore pit. I don't think there's any way we cannot affect these businesses with this work. We can only try to limit the time that we're there.
Well, I think you chose some pretty good spots on the 3400 block. It looks like those won't have any, real business interruptions. Really, it's just the one spot on the 3300 block on the east side that could prove problematic for a business. And so, being conscious of where those doors are or whatnot, perhaps if you move it more towards the vacant corner there, perhaps that would be less impactful. Obviously, I don't know the logistics of having to get under there, but like Councilmember Olson, I just want to be very clear that we're expecting very clear communications for impacted business by that, and a very clear timeline about, what they can expect, because I'm not so sure they know about that, and that we've really discussed that. You said Parker uses the same lights as we use?
They do in Main Street. They have one type of light on the outside that's similar to the light that the Arts District, not the Arts District, the Antiques Row had, except I think it hangs down, but they also have these globe lamps in some places.
The same as ours?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I think they're a gray color on the base, not green.
Oh, okay. Do they have the same sourcing issues you think we have, as far as, because I feel like that's one of the major motivations, in addition to them just not being very efficient lighting, that the cost of replacement and things is kind of sky high. Do you think they deal with that
I
same
think they
issue?
have the same issues.
Think they'd be
yes.
willing to buy any of our supply? Maybe we need to talk to them about getting rid of some of our old stuff.
We're going to need those for parts, Mayor. Because even after this, there are going to be a lot of those lights left, around the parkway.
That's a great point.
So we're going to use them for parts.
Okay,
Nobody can
fair
buy
enough.
them.
Fair enough. Until we get into replacing those, I guess we should maintain our inventory, hearing how difficult they are. I too love those Hess lightings, so I definitely like what that shows. I guess I'm curious about the cost difference between those and some of the other options that have been presented. Were those cost prohibitive, or are those fairly reasonable?
No, the lights that were provided to us by the lighting designer, they said they were all within $3,000 to $5,000, and that's within our budget.
Great. Yeah, I could see some cool applications with our logo or events or other just lighting on the right-of-way that could really add some vibrancy to the area. Moving on to the banners, I guess I worry that the color scheme itself still doesn't seem to be within our brand guidelines. We spent a little bit of time recently developing, a color palette within our brand guidelines, and now these banners I feel like are outside of those guidelines. And so, I would encourage us to stay within that, but, I'm open to doing something out. I would also give the feedback that the themes below, I know we've got historic, which I love. I think one should be artistic. I think that is kind of an identity that makes a lot of sense. I can't remember what the other two were, alive and friendly. I like those, but not quite as much as artistic and historic. I really want to make sure we try to highlight those two items. Was the bronze color that you guys wanted to repaint the streetscape shown in that photo? Is that the bronze color?
That's a photoshopped photo. I think it's similar, although I don't think it's exact.
Yeah, that looked a little more matte, kind of like gray to me than a bronze.
Yeah, it's the sample that we got was a little bit more towards the brown than a gray.
I guess I'd want to see that color again. I guess I worry about it being too different than what we have out there, and if it's kind of like shiny and metallic, I'm not so sure that fits with the rest of the aesthetic that we're trying to do.
I wish I would have brought it. We had one done, trash can lid, and it's upstairs in my office, unfortunately. But we can set that in this room for you to look at another time.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
The problem is that color does not look good under artificial light.
Get it on that
looks good in
patio.
the sun. It looks different in the sun.
And to us, this is a perfect thing to ask the business community, what color do you think it should be?
Agreed. Just knowing that, we'll have to take that, I think, feedback into consideration and again, try to make sure it's congruent, because I worry that, one person's going to like the green sign and then, the streetscape's going to be a totally different color and nothing's going to really be congruent. I did want to give a shout out for the wayfinding, and what I view as kind of a monument signage. This is, I think, pretty important for the branding of this area. I love the idea that it would sort of light up or at least be sort of backlit, and I think it provides multiple functions of not only differentiating this area and sort of branding this area, if you will, but it also, provides, I think, critical sort of wayfinding and perhaps a pedestrian map. I think some of the critical things you really want to highlight are the free parking, connectivity to the light rail and to the city center itself with its amenities, as well as perhaps a pedestrian map of some sort. I do worry as well about the streetscape sort of cluttering the right-of-way a little bit, so I think we might have to think about relocating. I think this monument wayfinding makes sense along Inglewood Parkway, more towards that corner, because of its, could be, also highlighting Inglewood, the beginning of Inglewood Parkway there. And again, the connectivity towards City Center, I think, is kind of a long-term goal of ours. I think that's all I had. Back to Councilmember Barrington.
I hope you talk to the businesses. I'm not sure they're going to like a wayfinding sign on their block. That's for the next block, but we'll see. We'll see when we tie it all together. So if there are some like parking, or for something a little clearer, and they're very limited, then maybe it's worth having the discussion. But so far, I haven't found. And the places that I've gone to look at them, they're just not as useful as I would like them to be for the cost. How many lights would we be replacing?
I believe there's like 27 lights.
Okay, so you said the cost was between $4,000 and $5,000 per light.
It was the 3 and 5 is what
Between 3 and 5.
is what the
A
consultant-
$2,000 difference when you're doing 20.
It's
That's a lot of money. So and you said you were going to have some additional public meetings and meetings with the businesses as well?
yes.
Okay.
But primarily our next step is going to be the online newsletters and the informative.
And council will be copied on all of that information as well, and any emails like for those kind of meetings. But one of the really deciding factors at that meeting you had at the alternative high school, because when people were like, oh, we want to have benches and awesome crosswalks and lights on here and all this, and then you put a dollar amount to that, like the wayfinding signs, I said, yeah, no. For the cost of that, I would rather have. And so that was really part of the conversation because you tied the money in. So when we're having this conversation with the public, everybody's needs versus wants has to come up against the reality of costs. And when we're only discussing wants and needs, and we don't have that conversation of cost, it kind of went all over the place. But when you put that requirement of some of those costs in there, people were pretty definite on what they thought was more value to them. And if we could just make sure that we're getting all of the different costs for the lights. And then obviously, good point that Joe brought up, Mayor Jefferson brought up about making sure that we know what the costs are associated with each thing so that we can, similarly to that community meeting, go ahead and make sure that we're making decisions based on costs. We may like something better, we may like that it shines better or that it reflects better, but if the cost then makes something else not doable, then we'd make different decisions. The raised medians, I didn't see that in here. Is that just considered a minor fixed? And how much is that piece going to cost?
The cost of it incrementally should be small because we were already taking the concrete out of that median and replacing it.
Oh, okay. So that's why it wasn't included as an individual item in here. Okay. Thank you very much for clearing that up.
Thank you. Councilmember Martinez?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the artistic crosswalks. I know Culture Arts Commission did discuss it, and their main concern was the same as yours, that it's a safety issue. They don't want people stopping in the middle of the street to admire it. It would be better fit for a slower, quieter street. And then also with the lights that we have here that are also in Parker, I know it's really iconic in that community. They just redid their logo not too long ago, and it includes those lights. So I think I would prefer to stay away from using those just because I think it's too similar.
Thank you. Yeah, hearing that feedback perhaps from Cultural Arts as well as our own internal staff, like I said, maybe a green might make some sense. I don't know what you guys think about that instead of a red carpet sort of thing. I will point out our wayfinding budget citywide, $100,000 this year. Yeah. And so when we're comparing, I think this wayfinding monument sign versus other wayfinding, signage, I think this one is a great value. Councilmember Russell.
I think along with some of the other things we've talked about, the businesses, I think the lighting, the businesses ought to participate in that also because it's going to impact them. So, and most of the time businesses have pretty good eyes about what's going to, attract people to their business. And that really is the purpose of taking care of those blocks, more so than the citizenry. The citizens need to pay for the cost, and so they need to be aware of that. But I would get the businesses involved in decisions about the lights and the colors as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rolson.
I wanted to ask Councilmember Martinez, was the cultural arts saying no against the red on the street as well, or just in the light kind of thing?
I don't think they'd seen that, but they talked about what other things we could do to add art to that area, and they talked about maybe doing some artistic crosswalks, but it would be kind of distracting and maybe a safety issue.
Mm-hmm. I would prefer that it be red because you think red is stop, warning, careful, and if it was green, it's like go. I don't know. It just seems like red should be it if we're trying to get people to slow down and notice their pedestrians and dogs walking and whatever. That's just my 2 cents. But I also, in terms of what you give us the next time around, I think what would be helpful would be maybe examples of what the businesses have said they like first, second, third, and then what the costs are to each, and maybe what the advantages or disadvantages are to each. Some point down, some point all over the place, whatever. It looks like you're looking at fairly efficient ones already, right? I mean, most of these are downcasting by nature.
Oh yeah, they are.
Because that's what the rules are now for many of these, right? So
dark skies is a huge issue.
It's the usual thing now, yeah. So, but that would be helpful to have some pros and cons for each from what your perspective is and what the businesses thought, and if there was citizen input that they didn't like something. I mean, you don't want anything aesthetically to be displeasing to the people who are going to go to purchase things either. So it's a balance, I realize. So that would be the other kind of stuff I'd want on a sort of a chart. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final comments or questions before we move on to our next agenda item? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate the update on that. I'm going to move us on to agenda item 2. This is budgeting for community goals review. We have several departments present to present a strategic view of their 2017 budgets, cost drivers, concerns, opportunities, and the expected impact on 2018. Let's see, we're starting with IT. Good evening, welcome. Margaret Brocklander, our IT Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me to present the IT mid-year budget. So the department overview, we have 3 divisions: IT business applications, IT operations, and central services. The introduction and core services for IT business applications. IT business applications, they manage a multitude of business applications across all departments, including Oracle and RecTrack and the records management system at PD. There are over 75 business applications used throughout the organization. IT operations, They implement, they secure, and they support all of the computers, the servers, the networks, the phone system, everything technology, including audiovisual and sound.
Are you in the picture? Is that why you're smiling?
Yes, he is.
Did you sign a waiver?
You see in there.
I wondered what he was.
Yes. And then last is central services. Ed McKee is central services. Ed ensures that the mail is sorted and delivered. He delivers the council packets. He manages the copiers, the printers, the faxes, and he manages the print shop.
What's lunch on the lawn?
And he manages lunch on the lawn.
We
Yes.
have the free lunch for the kids during the
Oh,
summer.
that's what you call it. Okay.
Yes. This is a maturity model. I first presented this a year ago when I came to the city and did an IT assessment of the organization. And at the time, we were at the firefighter level. We were at the very bottom. Over the last year, we've made multitude of improvements. We are now up to business partner, or moving towards business partner, with the goal of reaching innovation. These are highlights of some of the larger projects that were presented in the 2017 budget. First was the kickoff for the ERP project, aka Tyler New World, or Enterprise Resource Planning System. Also was My Inglewood, also known as SharePoint. That project has been implemented and completed. Time and attendance system is currently work in progress. RecTrack upgrade is complete. The phone system upgrade and the infrastructure improvements are also complete. The CRM is currently in soft launch. We're using it internally, and that is our citizen relationship management system. The official launch for the project will be Monday, July 3rd. I also want to point out that this project was possible due to us receiving a $6,500 grant from SIPA, which is the State Internet Portal Authority. And then in the third and fourth quarters of this year will be the launch of the new website, the document management system, the utility billing upgrades, and the implementation of the ERP system. And this is just a glimpse of our up-and-coming website, which will launch in the fourth quarter of this year, and then the mobile app. Officially July 3rd is our go-live. However, if you wanted to, you could go out and download this app today under Inglewood, Colorado. Opportunities that will bring about change for us include centralizing the renewal process for software and hardware maintenance agreements so that we can proactively manage the costs and the contractual changes throughout the IT asset lifecycle. Also, expanding and increasing the cybersecurity training and awareness throughout the organization so that we can combat some of the constant changes that are present in our threat landscape for IT. And then lastly, a very large implementation would be our PD records management system is replacing that system. Our budget through May, it's broken out by division. A couple of areas where the percentages will seem a little high includes the applications commodities, operations contractual, central service commodities. And these high percentages are mostly due to expenses that are incurred in the first part of the year, and also ensuring that expenses are applied to the correct line item so that we have accurate budget going forward. This is our overall IT budget. This slide shows the red line is our 2017 budget and expenses throughout April compared to the 2016 expenses. We have remained well within the budget overall. The percent expended is about 33%, well in range of where we expect it to be. And that's my brief overview of the IT budget for 2017. And I'm happy to answer any questions, clarifications, or answer any concerns.
Thank you. Councilmember Rolson.
Thank you. Great PowerPoint. Who helps you with these? I love some of the graphics.
Just me.
It's just you. You did a great job. Oh, wow. I just accidentally knocked it off. Yeah, great. You expect it from IT, right? So the slide on maturity model,
Yes.
what does it mean to reach that yellow level of innovation? What would that look like for us?
So that means we're more focused on process improvement, implementing innovative solutions, being more efficient, rather than just doing firefighting support, putting systems in. We want to be more of a business partner.
So coming up with solutions for other departments as they are challenged with things then and creating?
So we can improve or streamline the business processes.
Great, thanks.
You, Councilmember Martinez. Councilmember Yates. Thank you.
Question about the CRM. I use a phone system that's not used a lot, which is Windows. It won't work on Windows, will it?
It does not. They have it on Android and they have it on iOS.
No. I have Windows on my machines for a reason.
However,
employees don't play games on them.
you can still submit requests through the website.
Well, okay, so I can just bring up the web page and it's
It is
basically the same thing.
Yes, it's on our website, same thing.
That's good enough.
Okay.
You, now Councilmember Martinez.
I just want to say I'm really excited about the new website and the mobile app. And you said we can download it now?
Yes,
Okay.
I downloaded it Wednesday. Yes.
And is
tested
it called something, or do we just
Inglewood, Colorado?
just Englewood, Colorado? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Is there a link somewhere that just...
Yes, the product is by QSend. This is exactly what it looks like. It's what's on the screen. So if you went into your apps on your iOS phone and you entered in Inglewood, Colorado for the search, this would pop up.
Okay.
And you do need to enter in Colorado because there is another Inglewood in New Jersey.
There's one in Florida.
In Ohio.
Yeah.
And then if you
And they all
stick it
use
into
this
your
app?
phone, it's an IM.
Colorado it is.
We wanted to name it My Inglewood, but Inglewood, New Jersey stole it first, so.
Let's see. I got a couple of questions here on these pie charts here. What were we? I guess I wasn't following the pie charts. What are you trying to tell us through those charts?
So the pie charts at the very bottom for applications, for instance, our budget is the $503,896. And of that, the percentage that we have utilized so far is 43%.
I see.
Commodities is 84%, and then contractual is 7%.
Okay, thank you so much. Another question about just where is the next frontier in your mind as far as being able to deal with our business online? You know, obviously we've kind of looked at utility billing and all these other kind of, tax remittance, those kind of things. Where's the next frontier in your mind?
What we have up and coming with the new utility billing application is more online services. And then we also have eTrack planned for the last quarter of this year, which is the online permitting, scheduling, inspections. So we're trying to get more online services available.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Move us on to human resources.
Just one quick comment. Thank
Go
you
ahead.
very much for putting it to the budget piece of it the way that you presented this. I appreciated that.
Yes, and thank you for all of IT's efforts. It really helps move our organization forward and find some additional efficiencies. I appreciate everything IT does. Good evening. Welcome.
So is it just next?
Yeah, you have to advance that.
Following. Sorry. Good afternoon. I don't think I need a mic. My voice traveled well enough. First of all, nice to meet you. I haven't been here before, so it's very nice to meet the council finally. Following the module, we're here to give you a brief introduction of what is it that we do and what are the achievements and the challenges for HR.
Welcome, Director Gonzalez.
Yeah, my name is Maria Gonzalez, and this is Sue Gilmore, and we're going to present the HR department to you. That's the recent picture of the team.
Thank you, Mayor, because
No problem. Welcome. Yeah, like you said, it is kind of a weird introduction as well. So, hopefully you've had a chance to know our faces, but welcome on board.
Thank you.
When did you come on board?
March 13? Yeah, March 13.
Well, color me. I'd be embarrassed. Sorry. It's June.
Welcome.
Thank you. So the things that we're going to talk about today are the key programs that we do in HR. Okay, so we have the human resources piece, the benefit management, the risk management, which includes the property and liability and workers' compensation. Okay, those are the big buckets of things that we do in HR. If we look at our department, we have on one side John Weber. She's the manager for risk and benefits, and she also has Carrie and Carol. And Carrie does the risk and benefits, and Carol is doing the retirement administration right now. Then on the other side, we have 3 human resources business partners, which are the HR customer service facing the business, facing the city, facing each one of the departments. And then we have Sue, who is sitting here with me. She's our human resources technician, so she takes care of the processes in the back of the house. And we have Darla, which is a part-time clerk that we have in HR. So that's 8 full-time positions and 1 part-time position. That's the composition of the department. So the services that we offer in the big picture is recruiting, talent management, which is not only the performance management piece, but it's also the administration of the resources that the city have, identifying the talent and developing that talent. We have the employee and labor relations and collective bargaining that take care of, obviously, the contracts that we have in the city. The compensation and classification, which we just went through the compensation package, for example. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. The employee benefits. The risk management will take care of the liability and insurance for the city and being covered. The wellness, which is an area where we are spearheading the city and making a lot of progress so we can reduce or the cost of benefits and the cost of claims. And finally, the training, which is a capital piece of bringing the city to the next level. And now to talk about the accomplishments and the details, I'm going to give the floor to Sue.
Good evening. Like Maria said, my name is Sue Gilmore, and I'm the HR technician with the department. So when we look at recruiting, the steps that are involved in that is the job posting, then the selection process, then what's called onboarding and offboarding. Onboarding would be when an employee comes in and how they start and get put into their position, into the system, as well as starting off at their job. Then the onboarding would be at termination, either retirement or however they terminate their employment. So with the expansion of our NeoGov licensing in 2016, we've been able to put all of the new hire paperwork online. So the employee would go ahead and go out and complete all of their paperwork, their taxes, their payroll, everything online. So when they show up, that's already done. So it's given them a very, very pleasant experience. They can take their time with it rather than being rushed on their first day. And it's decreased their first day orientation in the HR office from 6 hours down to 2 so that they can get over to their department and get started. It's also helped with the accuracy of what is loaded into the system, and it's taken down what we have to do manually as well, so it saves us time. Then when we look at talent management, like Maria said, there was many moving pieces of that, but one of the accomplishments we had in 2017 was that we have, with the expanded license of NeoGov, we now have the online performance evaluations. The approval process with that online performance will have it route to whoever needs to sign off on it in sequence. So that has helped them process quicker. We've reduced the time from 39 days for anything overdue down to 24, and in 2018 we'd like to see that go to 10 days or less so that they're not overdue and the employee doesn't get their increase. The other part was that the employee really didn't know what their increase was. They would just see a percentage that they got for an increase, so we've implemented a email notification system that they can keep for their records saying, okay, this is the date it goes into effect, this is your old rate, this is your new rate, your score, that type of thing. So they have that for their records. Then we are looking at the area of policy and procedures. Our accomplishments in 2017 is that we have had all of the revisions completed for the policy book. It has passed through many reviews in various departments. It's going to be published out on My Inglewood so that anyone can access it there. But instead of having a booklet printed up that new hires would carry away with them, or all employees actually would get, we've decided to put it on a flash drive. And the new slogan for human resources, part of our department branding, is your partner in success. So we're taking that onto this flash drive in the shape of a key that will have My Inglewood on one side and Key to Your Success on the other side. It is a cost savings. If we would have booklets printed up that people walk away with, it would be $5 each. The keys have a cost of $3 each, and it will have a link. The other cost would be on a booklet with any major policy revisions. We'd have to print it again. With the link, it's taking you to the most current version of your policies. In the area of compensation and classifications, our accomplishment has been to put the compensation plan with all edits completed out on the My Inglewood. This was approved by Council back in February of 2017. We did have some assistance from the Inglewood 2016, yeah. We had some assistance from the Inglewood 5's compensation work group that helped put the communication out there, and they'll continue to work with us with additional compensation projects going forward. In the area of employee benefits, our accomplishments in 2017 was another health fair. Our attendance with the health fairs have gone up so much that we had to add a second one. So we did one at wastewater and then one here in the community room for everyone to attend. We did do a benefits survey along with our online enrollment this year, and the responses back from that survey was that we had a 95% employee satisfaction with the actual process of doing the online enrollment. We had a response of 85% so that they had an increased awareness of what their benefits were, and then a 77% that they really appreciated their benefits. We're also beginning to do the online enrollment as part of the new ERP system, so they're working on that now, and we will have the open enrollment for 2018 that happens in November of 2017 activated on that. We also, as an accomplishment for the employee benefits, have a 3-year guaranteed rate for all benefits except for medical through 2018. Risk management has some great accomplishments. The workers' compensation, the premium dropped by 40% from last year to this, and that is due to a reduction in our claims, so any worker compensation claims that were filed, and it resulted in $136,000 savings. We also had some audits through CIRSA, and we received a credit in our workers' compensation area of over $7,000, and in the property and casualty loss, we had a savings of almost $9,000 with their audits that they ran through. Another accomplishment that they've worked on is to design and implement a new safety and loss control program, as well as new modified duty program. And they've updated their forms for incidents to be online and very user-friendly. That was a big problem. People couldn't find their forms when they had a work comp injury, so now they're much more accessible to the people. In the area of safety and wellness, our accomplishments in 2017, that we have now part of the Inglewood 5 is a safety work group. And what they did was put out a survey and identified some areas to be addressed. And they formed a committee that will help with the citywide safety inspections, review the incidences that happen in their departments. And they are also the people that someone can go to bring up their concerns, and then the committee will address them. And on the wellness side, we had started a monthly fruit program, which the employees have really appreciated. Kaiser is paying for that, and they deliver fruit, and we divide it up along to all the departments to have in their areas once a month. SharePoint is My Inglewood. It has a page with the wellness program and what you could do to participate now. And this slide should have been updated. There are 30 employees actually that participated in our blood drive. Training, we have 3 areas of training available to employees. The first one is the Inglewood University, and that's more of a class-led instructor type program, which has a subject matter expert that does the training for the employees. It started in June of this year. We've already had 275 employees take advantage of the instructors that have come in. It has an annual cost of $25,000. It focuses on the leadership competencies that were addressed as being a void in our management. The other opportunities are both online opportunities. We have lynda.com, and that is actually through LinkedIn, I believe, was part of a licensing that they have. And I believe we bought 200 licenses. It's a cost of $15,000, and it does more business, Excel, all the Microsoft Office products. It can do even HR, different types of communications, different things that all employees can take and benefit from, and that runs from a beginner to advanced levels. Then we have CIRSA online training, which is not just safety, although it does address office safety as well as field worker safety. There's even city council training in there. We can hook you up with that later. We'll get you some more details, but there's definitely there and available online. So employees can access these at home or at work, but to accommodate a dedicated area for them to do and get away from their desk, we've added an HR training pod in our office, and we have 3 computers with noise-canceling headphones that they could come on in and sit down and dedicate the time to it. So with our team looking forward to 2018, we're going to look at our goals and challenges in the area of recruitment. We want to implement an automated approval process of our position requisitions. That's when you have a position open that you want to say you want to hire for. So that has to have certain signatures on it, and it will be an electronic flow for that. Then also our new ERP, we need to integrate that with NeoGov, which the vendor has said that shouldn't be any problem at all, but it will help flow that when a person applies for a job in NeoGov, then it's going to come right over into the new ERP, so you don't have to do that manual data entry. And our challenges, in May of this year, we were listed, Colorado was listed as a state with the lowest unemployment rate in the nation at 2.3 for the second straight month. The challenge of this is to prepare for this labor market shift that will occur due to the influx of people coming to the state and position the city of Inglewood as an employer of choice. We also need to manage the succession planning to mitigate for possible retirements. These are the percentage of our workforce that's at retirement age is at 8%. When we're looking at talent management, we would like to move to a once-a-year, all-inclusive performance evaluation system rather than what we currently have as an anniversary date, so they're happening all year long. We'd rather put it on one date and catch everyone at once. We also want to identify the core competencies for each employee, what their strengths and weaknesses are. Then create career paths that employees can look at, where they want to go and how to get there. And to identify and manage the city high pots. Those are your high potential employees. The challenge, of course, is the cost of living increases and equity of compression in salaries. When we're looking at benefits, our goal is to develop a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. The challenge with that is the unknown of the Affordable Care Act changes, yet to be seen. Then in risk management, our goal is to continue to develop safety and training for the whole organization as well as department levels. And in the wellness, we'd like to see an increase in our participation by 5%. When we're looking at budget, this is the general human resources coming out of the general fund. We are below budget right now, and our operating costs are about a little bit over, 38%, and then personnel costs are at 62%. When we look at the property and loss area of risk management, they charge those at the beginning of the year, so the cost on that is high, but it will taper off because it doesn't happen again, as well as the revenue that we're putting for that as well. It's a one-time thing, and then it will drop off, so we'll stay within budget on that as well with the forecast. Then when we look at the area of workers' compensation, our claims experience is a little bit below what it was before. And again, the charges for that, or the revenue that comes in for that, is in the beginning of the year high and then tapers off down. Then when we look at employee benefits, this is through a deduction of payroll. So your income will stay right on track as it goes through the year. And our claims experience with it's the cost of the benefits stays about the same as well. So what's coming in and going out is pretty predictable there for you. And that's the end. Do we have any questions?
Questions or comments from council? Councilmember Yates, did you have something?
Oh, no. Well, I do have a comment, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like lynda.com.
Oh, have you used it? What have you used it for?
It was for PHP programming and databases and stuff.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
It's very extensive in what employees can pick up on.
They can have something that's just an hour or something that's, several hours.
Courses.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, great. That's good feedback.
Councilmember Martinez?
Hi, I just want to say thank you for this presentation. Nice to meet you both. And I really appreciate the efficiencies that you've been able to find with the onboarding taking less time and the flash drive with the policy documents. I think that's going to be really great and really helpful, and not only save money, but to save all that paper, I think is really good.
Yes.
And also, this Englewood University thing sounds really interesting. Are the employees really excited about it?
It's becoming one of the most successful programs that we have put out. We have, I would say, 80% of the associates that are already participating, and the feedback is excellent. We engage, the instructor is from Colorado University, and we had several meetings before he designed the courses. So every time they get a training in whatever the subject we have picked for, it's also related to all the other changes that we're doing. So it's all integrated. So he talked about the Englewood 5. He talked about the competencies. So it's not a shell product that we took and we're teaching them. It's all integrated within the changes that we're trying to instill within the city.
That's really great. And I also like the note in here about creating particular career paths for the employees. I think that's a really great thing to do.
Thank you. Councilmember Russell?
It is very nice to meet you. Thank you for coming tonight. Actually, the question I had, I think I figured it out. On these pie charts, when it says like the general fund operating costs $252,107, is that what the total budget is? And that's 38% of the pie, and the rest of the budget.
On the first one. We have to break the services that we do in HR. Some things are operating costs, is what costs the HR department costs the city. And then we have services that we pay for other departments. That's what is included on the services side.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. But we haven't spent that much money at this point.
No, that's the total budget, yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah, I was going to be a little worried.
Thank you. Also, and welcome, even though you've been here a little while, but it's good to put faces with the names. I have a couple of questions. Well, one is, at the outset you said that you were able to decrease onboarding orientation time from 6 hours to 2 hours. What did you cut out, and how did you make up for it then?
Well, because originally they would come in and have to complete every form sitting at a conference table.
Oh.
So they'd be doing their taxes and their payroll deductions and just a ton of paperwork. So now they do that before they ever hit the door.
Uh-huh.
So we have all of that. We just print it off. The only thing we need to do is copy their documents for their I-9, and they're ready to go. They get it now. We have time to do a quick tour around the building. We run them over and get their parking pad. It's just a smoother process. They're in and out, and it's not that pressure that they have to fill out all this stuff. They're just moving.
4 hours is a long time to be filling out forms, really.
Well, we've cut back.
We've
cut back a little bit too because they don't have to do as long of the benefits presentation.
Okay, yeah.
Because
So you
they're
had
getting all
presentations.
of that information ahead of time. They can read about what their benefits are. So they're only coming with questions rather than having to do a whole presentation before it.
So do they get the mission and goals and everything via their departments, or do they get it from you first, and what happens there?
They get a welcome page that will list that for them, and then I believe it's going to be reinforced at their department level as
So
well.
that's how you really change the culture with the new vision. So then thank you. The other question, a couple of questions have to do with the recruitment, the goals and challenges slides. There's the recruiting and then the talent one. So I have to figure out which one. The recruiting one's first, isn't it? Okay, so you said that we want to position the city as the employer of choice. So what kinds of ways do you think how can we be distinctive compared to some other places? We may not have the same salaries. I don't know, maybe we are the same as some of our bordering cities. How else can we make sure this is a great place to work?
That's the idea. That's what we've been doing, branding, and we have a logo, and we have the key to success or your partner to success. We need to differentiate ourselves from other cities. We need to capitalize on the good things that we have and try to diminish the bad things that we have. So there is a perception, I don't believe it's a reality, I think it's a perception that our wages are lower than other people, okay?
That's what people say.
That is a perception,
That
so we
what
have
is
to
lower?
change it. I'm
Wages.
sorry?
Wages.
The wages.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, our salaries are lower than other municipalities. That's what we need to educate our associates, and we need to educate our customers. That's what we're going to start talking about total compensation. Because it may be that your wage, you may make $1 more if you go across the border, but you may not get the same PTO, you may not get the same benefits, the same quality of benefits, or you may not get the same career path. Okay, all of that is part of the employer branding. That's what we want to locate the city. That's where the big efficiency is. Because if we are able to attract top talent without increasing what we pay for wages, that's how we become successful. So that's what we're working on right now, is becoming to create a whole package of total compensation and explaining people how is it that we do and what is it that we offer. Because I think sometimes it's just the perception. I don't think it's the reality.
That's great. And then on the talent one and the merit and equity, Denver just finished their, I don't know if you know that they did an outside survey for inequity in pay for gender and race. Have we done anything like that as you looked at compression?
Not yet.
Are we going to? Because
Yes.
that was a big public statement
Yes.
they made and reported out, and it would be good to be able to say the same for Englewood.
Yes, and it's very deliberate. I put it there. We never made the differentiation before between merit and equity. I think people need to understand what is one and what is the other. Okay, the cost of living adjustment, it has to do with the inflation of the country and keeping the acquisitive power that our employees have. But then we need to look into equity. We're in the verge of having the new system. That's going to allow us to cross the data and make sure that we're paying the same for the same jobs. Because it's not only, the difference between gender or the difference between, we have jobs that we do across the city in different departments, and they may be paid different. Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about, equity and compression issues. With the compensation committee is starting to look into total compensation. What are the compression issues that we have? And then we need to look at, okay, we have 120 lifeguards. How are we paying the lifeguards? Are we paying them equitable according to the skills and the time that they have been with the city or not? That's the things that we're going to start doing now that we have the base.
I'd hope, that's great. That's great to hear. I would hope that we would also look at places where perhaps some genders are not being hired and ought to be, so that it's gender equity is not just, job for job comparison, but all throughout the system to make sure that we have an open space for everyone.
And we want to open the city to diversity. We want a diverse work environment, because that's where creativity and real
right.
quality and innovation comes from.
That's the other perhaps perception that people have of Englewood that it isn't. So that would be another great place to toot our horn if we can show some diversity in that. That's great. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Gonzalez, for that great presentation. I really wanted to thank you for what you described as kind of a value proposition, talking about total compensation and really the opportunities that Englewood sort of represents. And I think you guys did a great job with that recruitment video. Who produced that recruitment video? Was it the same folks who did? Yeah, Brand Viva. They did an excellent job with that. I appreciated your efforts making some local movie stars in the back of the room here locally. So thank you for that. I think that's going to help your mission and that value proposition you just talked about a moment ago. One question I have is how were we able to accomplish the benefit rate guarantee? Was that through one of our providers, or is that something we're handling in-house?
Yeah, that's actually Jones Weber achievement. By consolidating our benefits with one vendor and offering them a package, they were able to guarantee the rate.
So everything besides medical, does that include vision and dental and everything else?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Excellent.
Yes.
Any final questions or comments from council?
Good consulting work.
Yes.
Glad
Thank
we did
you.
this.
Appreciate that presentation. Council, we've only got about 10 minutes left. I'm going to suggest we skip finance and save that for next time, and that we take just a little bit of extended recess before we start our meeting at 7 next door.
Well, we want to make sure they have their fair share hearing.
That's right. That's right.
10 minutes.
That's right.
Sure.
And that wouldn't do them justice for all the wonderful things they're doing. So we're hereby adjourned, and we'll pick this up next door. Thank you for this, by the way. Yeah. Come in handy.
I know. I got called this afternoon.
Yes. Am I going to get another email about some of these other issues? Because that was about the...
That was just about creating a paving district.